Am I the a-hole dad gave the business to brother so I left? With updates. Original story. My older brother, 30 male, went to university and then worked in the city as an accountant. I, 27 male, started to work for my dad as a plumber at 15 and went to college to get my qualifications in plumbing and gas. About the time COVID started, my brother moved back from the city and started working for my dad, 55 male, in accounting. My dad has been unwell for the last 4 years due to asbestosis. It has been really hard on the family and he is getting worse, but is still living life. I have been running the business for the last 2 years. We have expanded and now have 50 vans in the fleet, and 1 qualified and 1 trainee allocated to each van. Pandemic was hard in the beginning, but we have bounced back. My dad still works on tools with me on Fridays, half day, then back to my place for some beers. Friday is the only day I'm on tools now as I'm doing everything to run the business. Well, last month he told the family he is stepping down from the business due to health and wants to spend more time with my mother and is giving the business to my brother and for me to step down from acting CEO. This upsets me. I've been with the business for 12 years. At the beginning, it was only me and my dad. My brother never wanted to be in the business and said it was not worth his time. And now he's the boss. And I've been dumped back to a heating engineer with £20,000 pay cut. Doesn't even have any clue what we do or how to do it. I spoke to my dad and he told me that my brother deserves it for all he has done, that he has a family and I don't, and that he went to uni. A lot of the workers are upset about the decision and have told me they will go where I go. I told my dad that if that is how he feels, then I will leave and start my own business. I have not spoken to my dad or brother since, and I have told them to never contact me. For the last month, I've had thousands of calls and messages from family saying some very hurtful things and telling me I'm ungrateful for what I have. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I want to say thank you to everyone for your kind words. There's so many to reply to, and I will do my best to thank you all. To hear my father tell me in his own way he doesn't think I'm good enough was hard, and for my family to take his and my brother's side was even harder. In the morning, I will contact the large clients I've worked with over the last 6 years. I know we had some site postponed due to the bug, big money, and we'll try to take them over. I have 20 of my colleagues wishing to come work for me. I've saved nearly all of my money I have earned over the last 12 years, so I think I have enough to get myself on my feet. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not a a-hole. I am so sorry. Hopefully your new business is successful. Thanks, but feel bad for taking business away from family. You shouldn't. They took the business away from family, not just from you, but from all the loyal employees who don't want to work with an inexperienced CEO. Not a a-hole. Not a a-hole at all. At least your father could have split business 50-50. Brother in charge of accounting side, you in charge of production. I would make that offer back. If father refuses, I would cut contact and block relatives. I would go start my own business and never look back. Brother turned back on family business while you worked yourself off to build it. To be honest, that's what I thought was going to happen, and was happy when my brother came back to be one big family company. I talked to my father, but my brother has always been the golden child. Not a a-hole at all. Not only did you get screwed out of a business that should have at least been split between you, you got a huge pay cut to go with it. The fact that your father allowed that to happen shows how he feels about you versus your brother. I am sorry, but I hope you run your brother out of business. Thank you. The hardest part is that my brother signed off on the pay cut. I was still on a very good wage, but that was the last dagger to the heart. I always thought my father would split the business between us, not leave me on the sideline after everything I did for it. Now for the first update. I want to inform everyone that I'm not starting a business to destroy my brother. As much as I want to, I've spent almost 13 years building it, and I don't want to see anyone out of a job or for the business to die. It's about 5 a.m. in England. You have all helped me so much. I will be going over to talk to my father about 8 a.m. and take him out for breakfast and talk. I'm not sure if I will get a proper answer from him, but I love my family and want my future kids to know them. I will update after the events of later today. Second update. As I said in one of the comments, I believe my family had found my post, and they did. This morning, when I arrived at my parents' house, my mom opened the door and looked like she had been crying a lot. My dad came over to talk to me and we went out for breakfast. He didn't say a word on the way there when we arrived. When on the way back, he asked if we could pull over and talk. I can honestly say this was the first time I saw my dad cry. I asked why he did this to me. He said doesn't know. I kept pushing, and he finally told me he owed it to my brother for not being about for him as much as me when we were growing up. And there were times my brother needed him, but we were working. I couldn't believe it. After 12 years of hard work, that was his reasoning? I told my father I had spent half my life working to do everything for the business, and how he threw me to the side just because his son came back hurts me more than I could explain. He told me he knows, as they had been shown the post I put up. To my surprise, he wasn't mad, but he seemed remorseful. He told me my mother has been in pieces after reading the comments about how bad she treated me, and thinks I will never talk to them again. My dad told me after reading it all, he realized he should have split the business between us, as it will need both of us to keep progressing, and apologized for me for never telling me how proud he was of everything I had done, and thought I know how proud he was. But my brother has full control, and my father has no say anymore, and my brother would never go 50-50. He told me he wants me to go back as my brother will need me. I told him that's not my problem anymore. After he demoted me and cut my pay, I tried to make it work for 3 weeks, but my brother wouldn't listen. Didn't believe I know what I was talking about, telling me he knows how to run a business. So I left. Why work my butt off there when I could do the same work and make more money for myself? My dad broke down, said that he had destroyed the family and should never had done what he did. I don't understand why it took this long to realize I was a valuable piece in the company. Third update. As I said, I have had a couple of Zoom calls with some clients today, and they have gone very well. I have been informed that they will all be sending signed proposal letters for the up-and-coming work. Lucky the site start dates don't clash. That was one of the main things I was worried about. 3 of my colleagues have now left the business and have spoken to my dad informing him about why they left, and that they will be coming to work with me of their own choice. To hear them tell me this meant a lot. They have all between 5 to 10 years more experience in the industry. At the moment, we have all we need to start a new business with the 3 vans I own and tools I have built up over the years. I am looking forward to the new venture in my life and can't wait to share this with my children when I have them. Then I received a call from my father asking me to come over for dinner. I wasn't sure at first, but thought it was probably a step in the right direction. Upon arrival, my whole family was there. I went in and the atmosphere dropped. My mom wouldn't look at me, and my brother just sat there acting as if I didn't exist. My dad came to ask me and my brother to come into his office. He started to ask when I was going to return to the company, as they need me in early Monday morning. I could not even believe what I was hearing. I told them both I'm not coming back and have started my own business. And what does he mean we? You gave the business to him, my brother. My brother started to lose his temper, telling me if I cared about the company, why would I leave? I have some very choice words, before telling him that I have always cared for the company and spent 12 years of my life working to make it successful. Like him, who swans in and takes all the glory, and that I will not sit there and be treated like that. I told my brother to buzz off, so I could talk to Dad. I asked what was this morning all about, telling me sorry but then expects me to go running back? He couldn't even look me in the eye, so I left, said goodbye to my cousin, nieces, and nephews and walked out. I've been writing for about 3 hours on and off coming back on here to talk to people. I just want to say thank you to everyone for the personal message, comments, rewards, and all the kind words and encouragement. I'll try and message everyone, but I'm exhausted and will most likely fall asleep. Fourth update. Sorry it's been a while. I've had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, so I'll try to explain the most I can. So the new business is going very well. We have a lot of work coming in and making good money. At the end of the year, I will be looking at expanding, so very happy with that. Me and my fiancé are very happy. She's very busy planning the wedding of her dreams. She wants me to wear a suit, but tough luck, I'll be in my kilt. I couldn't be happier that I'm right now waking up to her every day. She's there for me no matter what. It has been my rock through everything. Then my family. My father and brother still refuse to talk to me, and have told me they will not be attending the wedding, even though they haven't been invited. My mother has called my fiancé but hasn't said much, only to ask about wedding stuff and will not talk to me. My fiancé's family have been amazing. My soon-to-be-in-laws have been helping with the wedding and everything else, and I'm extremely thankful for everything they have done for us. My other family have now backed off and apologized and want to make amends for everything that was said. Myself and my fiancé are set to have our wedding in November. We sat down together and have decided to try to have children after we are married, We are both excited to be parents. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not splitting the control of my business to my children equally? Hi, 65-year-old electrician from Germany here. I plan to settle down, traveling with my wife, 65, and spoiling our grandchildren for the rest of our lives. I had built up a small business with now 23 employees. My son Alexander, 36, will take control of it. I have also 2 daughters in which I'm proud of. Laura, 34, has studied biochemistry and has her master's degree. Marie, 30, became a middle school teacher in mathematics and sports. I have recently spoken about my plan at the family gathering. Laura totally agreed to it, but Marie accused me of favoritism. That is not true. I love every one of my children equally. But my son decided to make a training on my side as he graduated. Abitur similar to high school. Additionally, he got a master's license as electrician. So we worked nearly 17 years together. Also, he has the ability to run our business and our employees respect him. I told my daughter the points above, but she said I was always closer to my son as to my daughters. Sadly, I have to admit it is kind of true. But how isn't it possible if I work all day together with my son? He's also my colleague and my right hand at work. My wife Laura and Alexander signed with me, so I need an outside opinion in here. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edited to Ed. Many of you ask, and here are some answers. Alexander will become the owner. I will be totally out of it. As he started to work with me, we were only 6 people, and as he got his master's license, he trained 7 of our employees. We Germans say he was passionate about it, and he sacrificed a lot. My daughters were offered to work with me and earned money in school holidays on my side, but as they graduated, they had their own career plans which my wife and I have supported, financially and emotionally. Our Redditor sent a link to another story which I have read, and now I'm pretty sure I can leave the business only to my son. I am thankful for your replies, and I had read almost every one of them. I just think about it if I should benefit my daughters on my will in exchange. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You are giving your electrician business to the electrician who has worked there for 17 years. Your employees would think you are the a-hole if you handed control over to someone with no experience other than being related. Reminds me of that AITA from a few weeks back, where daddy gave the business to the son he did work with and destroyed the family, but in reverse. Hard work should be rewarded. Not the a-hole. Your son has invested his time and energy in the business and helped you make it a success, no doubt. And all of your reasons are also correct. By leaving the business to your son, you're also trying to ensure that the workers and their families also have a long-term future with the business, as your son is best placed to keep the company running successfully. Also, it's your business and your money, and therefore your right to leave it to whoever you want to. Good luck. German law might disagree in the last part. I hope you should definitely check with a lawyer because there can be certain costs to compensate his other kids when he gives the company to only one child. Not the a-hole. That's just sensible business. Marie likely doesn't have much experience in this industry or in running a business. Your son is most qualified and knows the ins and outs after working with you for 17 years. It sounds like Marie's more bitter about Alexander's close relationship with you rather than the handover of the business. Marie could have chosen to be an electrician. Both of them could have. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not splitting my inheritance so my cousins and I can have an equal amount? Basically what the title says. My paternal grandma died when I, 20 female, was 3 and my cousins Connor, 24 male, and Olivia, 20 female, were 7 and 4 respectively. In her will, my grandmother left all her money to us grandchildren. Obviously, she didn't know how many children my dad and uncle would end up having, so her will stated that half her money would be split evenly between my uncle's children, and the other half would be split evenly between my dad's children. I'm an only child, so I don't have to split the money with siblings. We get access to the money in our 21st birthday, so Connor has already had his. Olivia's birthday is next month, and mine is in 7 months. My uncle, Connor, and Olivia think that it's unfair that I'm getting more money than they are. When I was 17 and Connor was turning 21, they asked my parents to split my share of the money, so we would all get 33%. My parents said no because it wasn't their money, and that I should be the only one who gets to decide what to do with the money after I get access to it. Since then, they've brought it up a couple of times a year, but as it's getting closer to Olivia's birthday, they've started bringing it up more often. They've even roped in members of our extended family to harass me about it through emails and texts. They say that I'm being selfish but not splitting the money evenly with them. That it's unfair for me to get more money. They also like to bring up the fact that my parents have jobs with higher salaries than their parents, and being an only child meant that I got more stuff growing up. Which I admit is partially true. I went to private school, I did a lot of extracurriculars, went on holiday abroad at least once a year. At the same time, I didn't get everything that I asked for growing up. And my parents refused to buy me a car when I was 17. I had to buy my own car, whereas their parents did buy them a car. My dad's aunt also constantly told my uncle that my dad was the favorite child, which has left my uncle with a chip on his shoulder, and is using me getting more money to support that idea. I don't want to split the money because it's my money. The money was left to the children of my dad, and it's not my fault that my parents only had me. My parents also taught me how to manage my money, so I plan to put most of the money from my grandma in a lifetime ISA, use some of it to go traveling after university before starting work, a weekend trip to New York for me and my friends for my 21st birthday, and to invest the rest. So it's not like I'm planning on blowing it all in one go. Also, Connor and Olivia's share is still a lot of money each. It's more than most people inherit, and more money than most people have access to in their early 20s. Also, Connor has already blown through most of his money in the last 3 years on partying, traveling in cars, so I don't see why I should have to sacrifice some of my inheritance to make up for the fact that he's wasted most of his. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Seeing as I've been sent messages about it, I thought I'd let everyone know that my grandma did not exclude my dad and uncle. She only left the money that was in her various bank accounts to the grandchildren. The rest of her assets, such as property, jewelry, her art collection, investment portfolio, etc., was left to them. I've been asked how much money there is in total. I don't really feel comfortable saying the exact amount, but it's safe to say that even the 25% share is fractions of £1 million. Not day hall. Your uncle and cousin are being entitled. Your grandmother divided her assets as she wished, and no one has the right to question it. This. You are following her will. What would have happened if you had 4 siblings? Do you honestly think they would split their money? Not day hall. Not day hall. Not unfair at all. Your grandma split it up fairly between her children's children. When they tell you that you're being selfish, fire back with, you're being greedy. You have no legal claim to my inheritance. If they want more money, they can go earn it. Many people go through life never receiving any kind of inheritance. You don't have to justify yourself here. You're honoring your grandma's wishes exactly as her will was laid out. Anyone who has a problem with it can go complain about it at her grave. Not day hall. This is a fair but not equal situation. Your grandmother was very fair by splitting 50-50 to each side of her 2 sons' descendants. The situation between the cousins isn't equal for obvious reasons. Don't give them any money because if the roles were reversed, they wouldn't give you a dime extra. My gran actually did this. She left most of her money to my uncles, but had a clause that said that if they had died, then the money would go to their kids instead. One uncle only had 1 child, the other one had 2. So essentially, if one of my uncles had died, it would have been 25-25-50. The kids are looking at it as though they are entitled to the entire pot, but actually they're entitled to their share of 50% of it.
Update. My 25 female best friend, 24 male, proposed to me. I'm confused and mortified. Where can we go from here? Original post. Frankly, I'm still in shock that this happened, so this might be all over the place. Bear with me. All fake names, etc., etc. Jordan and I met in university 2 years ago. We both started at the same time, and because of our ages, we were both considered mature students. We quickly became firm friends as we shared a dorm, and we joke around together about us being old enough to be considered mature in our early 20s. We weren't on the same course, but given we lived together, we would hang out pretty much all the time whenever we didn't have a lecture. We joined a bunch of societies together, went drinking every weekend together, etc., etc. It was a pretty sweet gig because it meant we were at least never alone. Obviously, we made other friends, both alone and together. but we were always each other's number one at the end of the day. At the moment, we're on spring holidays for Easter. And while we haven't hung out constantly, we decided to make plans to visit each other's hometowns because we're from very starkly different places. Today, we went to mine, a big city central. This morning, we went there and were wandering down the streets, doing some sightseeing because he's never been. There's typically a lot of street sellers here, trying to sell you everything from hot dogs to fluffy Pokemon hats. I decided I wanted to get a caricature done. I've never had one, and I thought it would be funny to get and hang over my bed when we got back for term. I asked Jordan if he wanted to get in, and he refused. No worries, so I sat down to get it done. They don't take very long, 5 to 10-ish minutes, so I stayed. Looked straight forward at the artist the entire time. He finished the caricature. I loved it. So obviously, I turned to show it properly to Jordan. When I turned, though, I literally don't even know what to say. He's down on one knee, holding up a ring box. I don't even really know what he said, if he did a whole proposal speech thing, because I was so confused. I was barely paying attention. Remember again, this is a super busy tourist city, so this has drawn a mini crowd now, coming over to cheer us on. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. To be honest, I thought this was some kind of odd prank type thing. We never have been prankster types or whatever, but I couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation. So I just laughed and laughed and laughed until I looked at Jordan and he looked genuinely heartbroken. So obviously I asked him something along the lines of, "You're not being serious." This is the only thing I remember him saying. He shut the box, stood up, shrugged and said, "I guess not anymore," and walked off. This left me standing pretty awkwardly in this gathered crowd of people, a lot of whom were giving me dirty looks, which made me incredibly uncomfortable. The plan was to meet back up a hotel that we had booked rooms next door to one another. So I figured that's where he's going and head back that way. But he's not there, so I wait and he still doesn't return. I text him out of concern. This was at 1:15 p.m. It's currently 6:20 p.m. as I'm writing this, just asking if he's okay. He responds with a long message back, which I would post because it's an odd read, but I won't out of respect for his privacy. In which he basically accuses me of leading him on, asking why I didn't break up with him sooner, saying I had publicly humiliated him and that he thought I loved him the same way, and that I felt our relationship was strong enough to consider taking the next step. Now, this is completely out of left field. I literally have got no idea where in the world he's got this idea from. The closest we've ever physically been is a hug, hello, and goodbye. I've never even jokingly flirted with him for exactly this reason. I've had too many friendships collapse because they can't tell the difference between serious, interesting, and joking banter in friendships. So I've been extra careful to not. We've never kissed, never been on date, never had sex. I do not find him physically attractive, and I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him. I don't understand where on earth he's got this idea that we are. This isn't something he's ever brought up before this, and I'm genuinely bewildered. He hasn't returned to the hotel yet. I periodically knock to check, and have been listening out for him walking up the hallway or anything. Nothing. I haven't responded to his long paragraph, because honestly, I don't know how to. I'm just so stunned and taken aback that I genuinely have no idea where to go from here or what to do. I haven't told anyone I know in person yet, mostly because I don't want to bring this up to people who know Jordan. So here I am turning to strangers on Reddit instead. What in the world do I do? Now for the top advice before reading the update. If/when he returns, I would only meet to discuss this in a public area. It doesn't sound like he is taking it well, and his perception of reality seems to be questionable. Be careful. This, as a woman, you have to always think of your safety first, before you can consider his feelings. Keep yourself safe above all else. I hope they aren't still sharing a dorm like she mentioned in her post. He's at the age where severe mental illness can really manifest. Reach out to his family and share your concerns. Normal, healthy-minded people do not imagine years-long romantic relationships with people. I would also avoid being alone with him until it's confirmed that his grasp on reality is not tenuous. Thank you. I don't really know any of his family, but I'll see what I can do. Is he religious by any chance? This could possibly explain how he could see the lack of any physical intimacy as compatible with dating. You're staying pure. I assume you've never dated/hooked up with anyone during your friendship with him? He's Catholic but non-practicing. He believes in God and the Bible and such, but he doesn't go to church, and as far as I know, he isn't very strict in his beliefs. I've had hookups, but no relationships. He hasn't had any relationships, but I'm not sure about hookups. We don't even talk about that stuff with each other, to be honest. Outside of the occasional his fit, I would while people watching. This kinda happened to me. Like, not to the point of proposal, but I lived with a male roommate who was already a close friend of mine for several years. When I was moving out, he confronted me and basically said he thought we should continue our relationship and get married and get a pet, and I need to break my new lease and stay with him, among many other really unhinged things. It was absolutely out of character, and like you, we were friends for years. And there was never any indication that we were anything else. And I dated while we lived together. Long story short, he was having a mental breakdown and eventually got psych help. We reconnected like a year later and he explained this, and that he basically had a psychotic break and why. It's been like 7 years now, and we're still good friends to this day, lol. He's stable now and has a long-term girlfriend, and we're good friends as well. I would seriously recommend you alert someone to his mental state and not re-engage until he is back to reality, if/when that happens. Edited to add, I don't want to sound like I'm minimizing this. You need to be away from him. Wouldn't really recommend going to his hotel room, etc. If you have to meet, do it in public. Regardless of if it's mental health related or if he's gaslighting/manipulating you on purpose, he's not stable, so do not be around him. Either your presence will continue to add to his delusion or you risk your safety, or both. My first thought was mental breakdown. You need to contact his family members ASAP, as well as your own family and friends, to inform them of the outline of what's going on. It's not nice. I know you don't want to embarrass him, but at least one other trustworthy person needs to know the full story. Stay with friends. Do not meet with him unless in public. And bring a friend you know could physically back you up, who can stay on the sidelines. Bottom line is, he needs a psychiatric evaluation. He may be violent. Family needs to know that no matter how he is presenting. If this is a psychotic episode, he can escalate to violence suddenly and without warning. Do not make physical contact if you can avoid it. Do not invite him in. If this is delusion, he can quickly become convinced that family members or you yourself are imposters, and that his family is in danger, or any number of similar ideas. Now for the first update. Jordan did in fact not come back to the hotel. I stayed up until 1 a.m. before falling asleep, and he didn't return. When I woke up the next day, the hotel staff let me know he had checked himself out at about 6 a.m. I did end up responding to his big, long text. I took everyone's advice and told him that I was sorry it didn't go as he had expected, but that I wasn't sure where he'd got the impression that we were together. I said I'd be happy to sit and have a discussion about it all, so we could make sure we're on the same page. He was not happy about this at all, and he again went off, which a bunch of the same type of thing he'd said in his first message. It didn't really seem to be going through his head at all. Even in these new texts, he kept referring to this all as me breaking up with him, despite me explicitly telling him we are not and never have. Again, all his messages were very clear and coherent, even if what he was saying was not based in reality at all. He wasn't sending paragraphs, just sentences in really quick succession, which was blowing my phone up. He told me he didn't want to meet up with me to talk, because I had ripped out his heart and crushed it in public. I did ask him for specific instances he could recall between us that made him think we were dating, but he completely ignored the question and just kept going on and on about how hurt he was that I was breaking up with him and how he felt his world was ending. He said he loved me more than anything and had felt so confident that I had too, which is why he felt so certain about proposing to move our relationship along. Eventually, to be honest, I grew pretty tired of the conversation and stopped responding, because it was just going around and around in circles. Me asking where he got this idea, him ignoring this and telling me how hurt he is and breaking up with him over this, etc., etc. He went on and on saying he thought it would be a ring I like because it was my favorite gem, ruby instead of diamond. It's got me wondering how much he actually spent on his damn thing. I didn't look very clearly at the ring, so I couldn't tell if it was something super expensive or not. and that he had been working up the courage to do so for a while and figured doing it when I was at home would make it more special. For a while, he was just talking to himself in my texts because I wasn't responding anymore. When I checked back about 20 minutes later, I had something like 60 messages from him. Granted, they were all one sentences. At the very end, he apologized and told me that it didn't matter anyway because I wouldn't see him around anymore. Obviously, I was concerned, so I asked for clarification. He said that he was going to drop out of university and go back home because he couldn't deal with the shame. That's where our conversation ended. I didn't really know what to respond to that. As it stands now, I don't really know where Jordan is. I didn't ask him, which is my bad. I'm not sure if/when we will talk again. I'm sorry this is quite a boring update. Unfortunately, I can't excite everyone with and then he turned up at my door and then he sent me flowers or whatever. It feels a lot isn't answered.
I still don't know where he got the idea we were dating from.
He hasn't explained that. So I'm sorry I can't give everyone that answer. I haven't reached out to his family yet. I did consider it, but if he's not having a mental health crisis, I don't really want to involve them unnecessarily. I understand not wanting to involve family, but as you are close and in college, surely there are other friends/people who know you both you could reach out to and ask. You don't even have to go into specifics. Just be like, hey, did you think that Jordan and I were dating? Have you heard Jordan refer to us as dating? Get a sense of whether this is something ongoing and he's just a regular weirdo, or if this is something concerning that should be brought up with family or mental health professionals at your school. We do share some mutual friends. I haven't really considered reaching out to them, but I'll definitely think about doing so. I feel like someone would have told me if he had been saying that to them though, but obviously I'm not certain. I haven't told anyone in real life about it, not even my parents. Just been keeping under the near total anonymity of Reddit, but I can definitely see why it may be important to do this. I would recommend telling your parents, just in case anything else were to happen. Second update. So adding on, a lot of people said I should ask our mutual friends if he's ever brought this up before, ever suggested we were dating, etc. All of the people I've asked, granted it was only 5, said that they've not got a clue, and he's never mentioned it before now. I don't know then if this is something that he's newly started thinking or if it's been something long-term, etc. Either way, in addition, I've also screenshotted all of his texts and such, just in case. Reading back on them, not with a slightly less confused mindset, they read pretty manic. Still haven't heard back from his mom just yet. Last story. My boyfriend proposed and now I don't want to marry him anymore. I know this might seem stupid and ungrateful, but honestly, I am too upset to even care. 2 days ago, my boyfriend proposed to me at a McDonald's near our house. He got on his knees in the middle of us eating and asked if I wanted to marry him with a silver ring. Some people were looking at me with happy faces and others with looks of pity and disgust. That is how I felt in that moment. I didn't say anything. I literally just sobbed and nodded my head because I didn't want to embarrass him. The reason I am mad over his wave proposal was because 1, we don't talk about him proposing every day, but we probably talk about it twice a month with him usually bringing it up. I told him I wanted my mom, dad, and my sister to be there if it was possible, and for it to be in a romantic setting. 2, I hate silver jewelry. I'm a gold girl and he knows it. I told him I would never want a silver ring, and if it does buy me any jewelry, it's gold. I feel like if you're asking someone to spend their life with you, then it should be more thought out and planned. I don't think this is the type of person I want to marry, but I don't know. I've been trying to convince myself since yesterday that maybe I hyped up the proposal in my head too much, that whatever he did would not top it off. I think anything but that would have been better. Now for the top advice before the edit/mini update. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like he went out of his way to propose to you exactly how you didn't want. Like he spent some time to think of and plan, so it's exactly how you'd hate it. I was thinking the same thing. I understand maybe getting the wrong ring. Hey, maybe he forgot. But to do it at a McDonald's when she specifically asked for a romantic setting and her immediate family to be there? Didn't seem too hard to do all that, but difficult to forget. Yeah, he actively did everything she didn't want. You could have forgotten everything. Could have forgotten gold instead of silver. Could have forgotten she wanted family there. Could have forgotten she wanted a romantic setting and end up proposing in a restaurant. Could have developed dementia the day before and forgotten absolutely everything that she wanted. And still, who the heck proposes in a McDonald's? Is he trying to get you to break up with him? Because this is so wrong. It feels like he did this on purpose. It's the McDonald's for me. It's like he purposefully did everything the opposite of what she wanted. No family, silver instead of gold, and specifically chose a terrible location as the final nail in a coffin. No way a genuine proposal would take place at a McDonald's of all places. Edit/mini update. I didn't expect this to get as much comments as it did. I wanted to answer some things and comments people have put. Why I wanted a gold ring. I wanted a gold banded ring because I only own gold jewelry. I never said it had to be expensive. I literally would have been happy with a simple ring with a gold band. I was more mad at the fact he knows how much I love gold and has bought gold jewelry for me before. We make jokes about how much I hate silver jewelry. How old are you guys? I'm 28 and he's 32. Do you not love him anymore? I love him the same amount still. We've been together for 7 years, and I don't think you can ever stop loving someone that quick. If you loved him, then you would accept any proposal. Well, if someone purposefully asks you what you want your proposal to be like, and then they don't make it anything near it, I wouldn't be mad if he did it at the park, the diner where we usually go out to eat with our family, etc. I wanted the place to have more meaning, and to be more romantic. Also, for the people who think romantic equals fancy, you guys are dead wrong. Now, to the people wondering if I ever said anything about it, I did. We had a long conversation and he said that he'd rather just get it done quick than pushing our whole lives to do it. It obviously hurt my feelings that he'd want to get something done quick that has to do with him asking me to be in his life forever. He apologized and then said he'd propose in a different way. I didn't really know what to say because it felt like I was asking him to propose instead of him wanting to do it. We are not broken up, but we are also not engaged. We are in a weird place right now because I feel like a proposal is a big thing and he messed it up trying to rush it. Another thing is that he is literally my dream man. He takes me out to dinner every Friday, buys me things without me having to ask, and takes me out on trips spontaneously. This whole thing just threw me off all the way, which is where a lot of this anger and sadness is coming from. I didn't want this post to seem like I hated him, so I'm sorry if you thought that.